Welcome, readers, to the first in a series of 4 weekly talks on the 2021 Summer Read Selection, You Belong by Sebene Selassie. My name is Karen Hostetter, Library Manager at Redland Community Library. WellSpan Health, WITF's Transforming Health, Capital Blue Cross, and 80 libraries throughout the central Pennsylvania region are in collaboration for this year's Summer Read program. We welcome the YMCA of York as a program partner for this year. Selassie, through research and storytelling, reassures us that we do belong, even though at times we may feel disconnected. She offers suggestions for us to move back to a place where we will all feel that we belong. This evening's topic is You Belong, whether you know it or not. We will have a presentation followed by a discussion session. Our presenter this evening from WellSpan Health is Dr. Sharon Czabafy. Dr. Sharon is a licensed clinical social worker, a certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor, and a tobacco treatment specialist. Her experience includes addiction treatment, community engagement, social work, tobacco control, and trauma-informed care. Dr. Sharon believes that connection and a sense of belonging is critical to emotional, physical, and spiritual health, and loves assisting people in making healthy connections. So let's meet Dr. Sharon.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for your patience. What a resilient group we are. We just hang in here. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about connection, and to begin that, I'd like you to consider some questions. What did you learn about your family and belonging? What did you learn about your culture and belonging? And what do you hope to learn today? Why did you show up tonight? Hey, so what does it mean to belong? What is belonging? It's a basic, fundamental human emotional need to affiliate with and be accepted by members of a group. Abraham Maslow, who was a psychologist from the late 50s through the 70s, was well known for his development of a hierarchy of needs. And those needs included love and belongingness as a fundamental need. And what that means as a fundamental need is you need to fill that before you can fill other needs. It's foundational. As humans, we're social creatures. We crave interaction with others. Think about the isolation that people have endured from this past year and a half due to COVID. Some people were really lonely and got very depressed, so they weren't able to make those connections. Human needs include friendship, intimacy, family, being able to give and receive love, and to feel like they belong in a group, that somebody cares about them. So how do you feel when you belong? Through healthy connections and bonds and attachments. Connections throughout the lifespan are based on very early attachments in infancy and the internal model of the world that's created. Some researchers even believe that that connection starts in utero, that when a mother is carrying a child, that child gets that sense of belonging. Or if there is a lot of stress and conflict and strife in that mother's life, that the baby could interpret it as they don't belong. So I'm very familiar with from infancy on, and I've been learning more about the in utero, and it's very, very interesting. Healthy connections are critical to our health and well-being, and I'll demonstrate that in a few slides from now. And in order to do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what's called attachment theory. It was developed by a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby. And he believed that, as I just said, humans are born with a need to form a close emotional bond with a caregiver. That healthy bond, in his opinion, developed in the first 6 months of life. And as I mentioned, some people now believe even before then. This theory focuses on the experience, the expression, and the regulation of emotions. So one of the primary functions of attachment theory is that it protects vulnerable individuals from potential threats or harm. And a vulnerable individual is an infant. A vulnerable individual starts when that individual infant cannot take care of itself. It will die if it's not given the care it needs from someone in its environment. So his idea was that that early connection for those basic survival needs will carry out through life. It helps us to learn how to regulate negative emotions following threatening or harmful events. For a quick example, if an infant is hungry, that's threatening to them. Without food, they won't survive. So what do? They cry, they scream, they kick, they do this, all that. Then we know the child has a need. We feed the child and the need is satisfied. The child gets soothed. Now that's a very basic example. As the child grows, maybe it's a harmful event, could be a dog coming at them and the child's afraid they'll get bit and the parent or caregiver intervenes. So all kinds of things like that can help that child develop a sense of safety and belonging. Someone cares enough about me. I belong to this tribe and the tribe will take care of me. And part of that, we develop what is called the internal model of the world. I love this picture of the eye that Abby found for us. And it shows the world inside the eye. And you probably have heard the expression, eyes are the window to the soul. And that is so true. It lets us see what's inside. And those internal models, those mental representations formed in early childhood with the primary caregiver helps us as adults, whether or not we're going to trust the world. If our internal model of the world was based on caregivers that weren't available to us, that we cried ourselves to sleep because we were hungry and didn't get fed, we can't trust the environment. That will stay with us, and we will grow up as adults not trusting our environment. So we kind of expect the worst from people. We expect people to betray us. We expect people to forget about us because of that really early internal model of the world. And this explains the differences in human behavior among all people. If it's significant in a child's development, it influences the emotion, the behavior, the interaction with others, and the expectations of others in relationship. These models operate out of conscious awareness. We're not aware that, oh my gosh, I couldn't trust my caregiver. Now I'm not going to trust my school teacher or my boss or my physician. It's not conscious. It's automatic. We do it without thinking. There are certain attachment styles. You certainly don't need to know these, memorize them. It's just more to realize that there are 4 basic attachment styles. The most positive one is called secure attachment. And that means you're comfortable with intimacy and closeness. You can trust, you can give and receive love. You can regulate your emotions. You have a support system. You expect the best of others. You trust people. I mentioned that a lot, but trust is so foundational to our interactions with other people. Then there's a style called preoccupied. It develops a negative self-image. I don't feel good about myself. Everyone around me is better than me. They're smarter, they're quicker, they're sharper, they're prettier, more handsome. I don't like who I am, but it's because I can't be like them. There's a desire for closeness and a tremendous fear of abandonment. You will abandon me because I am not worthy of you sticking around. Then there's another style, it's called fearful avoidant. And that is a negative self-image. You don't like yourself very much, but you also don't like other people. You don't trust them. There's a fear of closeness, and you're very socially avoidant. You don't like to be in groups. You don't like to go out. You don't like to talk in front of people. It's very much about protection by isolation. And then another style is called dismissing and avoidant. And you have a positive self-image of yourself, but not other people. You think, well, I might be okay, but they certainly aren't. So I don't want to get close to them. I'm going to take care of myself. I have no needs that anyone else can fill. I will do it all myself. So I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to reach out. I'm not going to accept help if it's offered because I can do it on my own. So keeping all of what I just said in mind, in the 80s, there was a doctor that was running a weight loss program at Kaiser Permanente in California. And they had a tremendously high dropout rate. So he started scratching his head and said, I'm really curious. So he called all 240 some people who had dropped out of the program and started asking them some questions. He was curious about their past. So he started to realize every one of the 240 some people he interviewed had some type of childhood trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, food insecurity, parent that was depressed, the parent that had an addiction, a parent that maybe was in jail. It was very interesting. So he put that together in a presentation, went to a conference in Georgia, and this Dr. Anda from the Center for Disease Control heard his presentation. They had a conversation after the presentation and said, you know, I think we're on to something. Let's come up with a way to research this. They developed a 10-question survey, and over the course of 2 years, they interviewed 17,337 participants. Absolutely amazing. When you have a research project that is this big, it's really hard to argue with the results. And what they found by asking these questions, you can read through these questions, but what they found was that 1 in 4 of those over 17,000 people were exposed to 2 categories of adverse childhood experience. Now, how that is related to attachment is if you have an adverse childhood experience, your attachment is ruptured, your attachment is displaced, your attachment is in some way damaged, so you don't have the protection that you need. 1 in 16 of those interviewed was exposed to 4 categories of adverse childhood experiences. 22% were sexually abused as children. 66% of the women experienced abuse, violence, or family strife in childhood. The internal model of the world for women who experience abuse is that women get abused. And probably no surprise, women end up in relationships with people who abuse. Women were 50% more likely to have some type of other issues going on related to addiction, mental health, and or sexual problems. They also did research with different populations, had similar results. ACEs have a dose-response relationship with many health problems. Dose-response relationship is the higher the number of adverse childhood experiences, the more likely you are to have things, and I'll show you a slide in a few minutes, but like diabetes, heart disease, depression, addiction, back problems, digestive disorders, it's all related. ACEs cluster, meaning there's more than one, and almost 40% of those reported 2 or more, and 12% experienced 4 or more, as I mentioned. There are a lot of studies that are being done that look at the cumulative effects of ACEs. Here are some more of the findings that they have. Direct correlation with obesity, diabetes, depression, suicide attempts, sexually transmitted diseases, heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, and broken bones. There is a story of a woman in a trauma class that I took that had significant adverse childhood experiences and definitely had some attachment issues, all kinds of health issues. And at 56, went in to have a routine gallbladder surgery done and never woke up from the surgery. And the researchers that were looking at her case and putting all this together believed by that age that she just felt such a sense of isolation that she lost her will to live. So it's very, very profound. There are other behaviors that we see with ACEs: smoking, alcoholism, drug use. Some researchers have even broken it down. If you have 3 or more ACEs, you're more likely to be a smoker. 4 or more ACEs, you're more likely to use opiates. So it's a very significant correlation. It also affects life potential. If you don't believe in yourself, you probably aren't going to feel comfortable with doing things that make you feel successful. You don't deserve success. So you'll find ways to fail. And you are comfortable with failure rather than comfortable with success. So that affects graduation rates, academic achievement, work performance. It affects ability to get promotions. So it absolutely affects every area of your life. This is just a graph of what I went over in a little different format. So you can see at the bottom is the adverse childhood experiences, where all those faulty attachments take place, or ruptured attachments, they're broken. And if they aren't healed, it develops into ultimately early death. So here are some of the takeaways from the ACE study. Adverse childhood events are common. If you look at every study that's been done, over 66% of the respondents have had at least one adverse childhood experience. And coming out of the 1.5 years that we just came out of, we have all endured some type of traumatic event, and the children have suffered some great adverse childhood events as a result of it. So some of us are really looking at, in the school systems, what can we do to support these kids, get them reconnected, get them back into an environment that they feel they can trust and that their needs will be met. And some schools did a great job of that, feeding kids over COVID, having them pick up their lunches, checking on them, doing everything they can, the school districts I'm involved with, to make sure that the kids still know somebody cares about them. teachers driving by kids' houses and blowing the horn and waving, shouting out the window, I miss you. I can't wait to see you again. That's what the teachers in my districts have done to help stay connected with the kids, because schools are becoming trauma informed and they are learning how critical it is for kids to remain attached and stay connected. ACEs are strongly and significantly related to addictions and physical and mental health issues. Preventing ACEs, which is definitely what we want to do, and engaging in early identification of people who have experienced trauma could have a significant impact on critical health issues, including addictions. There is a community in Florida about 11, maybe now 12 years ago, decided to become a trauma-informed community. And that means that they spent a lot of time educating people on the importance of addressing early childhood experiences, of making those connections and those attachments. And as a result of that, they have reduced their addiction rate, they have reduced their dropout rate, they have reduced their teen pregnancy rate, and they have reduced their crime rate in their community. So it just goes to show that when people are attached and connected and feel bonded, they are less likely to act out in a negative way. We know the trauma may be over, but the effects are not. The body remembers what the mind forgets. So we need to realize, well, just because that happened yesterday, tomorrow you might have a headache that's related from what happened yesterday. As long as we don't give them the opportunity to talk about it, it's going to stay there. There has to be a way for the body to release the event from the body memory. As you can see here, all these numbers, what this means is every year that you see and all the states listed, they replicated the ACE study. And it's ongoing. The next round, they're usually a few years behind being able to print statistics. So I think in 2017, there was another major group of states that did the ACE study, and they all come back with very similar results. So what happens to the body when we have traumatic events, when there's early adverse childhood experiences or even adult adverse childhood experiences? We have a stress response. And when that stress response, our body automatically takes care of our survival, fight or flight, flee, freeze. One of the things is cortisol. It's a hormone that's produced to give us energy. It says, uh-oh, trouble. We have to get the troops lined up. That's a good thing. Too much cortisol is not a good thing. That's when it starts to affect our bodies. That's when it starts to affect our cardiovascular system, our respiratory system, our immune system, because this chronic stress means we have chronic cortisol, and our body is not equipped to deal with chronic high levels of cortisol. Our body is equipped to deal with short spurts of cortisol. Same way with adrenaline. Adrenaline says, yikes, get me out of here. Oh my gosh. Heart starts racing, hands start sweating, you start shaking, and you think, I gotta run, I gotta fight. The tiger's gonna get me if I don't. Again, we need that for survival, because there was a time where humans did need to run from their tigers. And they needed to say, uh-oh, I need energy, I need to go. Too much is not good. And too much actually can lead to things like adrenal fatigue. And it affects the whole endocrine system, which affects sugar levels. So when you really start to compare all of these things and connect the dots between them, you can see how important it is that if we have early healthy attachments, we are less likely to get as sick as adults. It doesn't mean we won't get sick. It means we're less likely to get seriously ill, and we're less likely to not have the reserve to recover from it. We also have a chemical called dopamine that makes us feel good. That's the neurotransmitter that says, Yahoo, I want more of this. It is an antidote to cortisol, and it definitely has a role in addiction. There are many drugs that people use and abuse because they get the dopamine hit from it, and they like that feeling. People want to feel good. We're born wanting to avoid pain and feel good. The brain does not interpret emotional or physical pain. It just interprets pain. So if you have emotional pain, your brain is going to perceive that the same way as if you have physical pain. And we want to feel good. So we learn, sometimes mostly accidental, that certain drugs, sex, food is going to make us feel good. And now we want more of it. And serotonin is that kind of, oh, yeah, I'm not real happy, but oh, I'm just like, oh, in nirvana land. I just feel so good. It regulates mood, it regulates sleep, it regulates appetite. And when we are under chronic stress, all of these hormones get out of balance and out of whack, and they aren't doing what our body designed them to do. And as a result of that, we end up with dis-ease. This is basically what happens. I don't know if any of you remember the Incredible Hulk. I heard he's coming back. But, you know, over here, Bruce is like all calm and collected, kind of cool looking. And then something triggers him and all his hormones go haywire. And now he's this big Hulk. That's basically what happens to us. Not quite that simple, but a basic example of what happens to us in our stress response. So there is a solution. Aren't you glad? I hope you're glad. There is a solution. To find a sense of belonging by making connections. Start with yourself and change your internal model of the world. If you don't trust people, ask yourself, is that really true? Or do I just expect that? And if you are working around, living around, interacting with people who really can't be trusted, then maybe find somebody who can. Maybe it's time to think about not being in that environment anymore. Be accountable for your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. Be responsible for your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. If somebody does something that offends me and makes me mad, what I do with my mad is my problem, not yours. If I allow what you said or did to make me angry, now I walk over there and, you know, break something on your desk that means something to you, I own that behavior. It might be understandable and it might be justified. It still doesn't make it okay to break that item that doesn't belong to me. So we need to start by being accountable for ourselves. And then practice lots of self-care. Eat when you're hungry. How many of us skip lunch and then we're ravenous by supper time and then we overeat? Drink when you're thirsty. If you wait till you're thirsty, you know, thirst is the first sign of dehydration. So we want to be drinking throughout the day so we don't wait till we're so thirsty that we feel like we have cotton in our mouths. Go to bed when it's time. How many of us, I'm just going to watch one more show or read one more chapter or, you know what, I forgot. I need to do a load of wash because I want to wear those slacks tomorrow. Oh, now I have to stay up not only to wash, but to dry. Oh, well, now these pants are wrinkled. I have to iron them. So next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you still haven't gotten to bed. Set boundaries. Say no. Say, I don't like that. Say, no, thank you. Say, I really don't want to do that. Take a yoga class. I suggested this in my smoking cessation classes. We always attempt to come up with things that people can do that might be a little different to create new habits. And our local rec center just happened to be having an open house, and you could go the whole week and try their classes. So one of the men in my class decided he was going to go take a yoga class. He fell in love with it and signed up for an entire 6-week class. So it surprised me. His daughter went through the class with him, and she said she never thought, I mean, if you knew this guy, just looking at him, you would never think he would go to a yoga class, but he loved it. So we can't ever assume what other people are going to like. They need to figure it out. Just be open-minded enough and give it a whirl. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't. Go for a walk with a friend a few times a week. That is so therapeutic. That is soul touching. That it's just, you know, walks and talks are just, they're, in my mind, they're therapeutic because you're with another person. You're paying attention to each other. You're moving your body. You're getting rid of some of that pent up chemicals and getting everything moving. It's just so therapeutic. Meditation, which is what the book spent a lot of time on. And my understanding is next week, you're going to be having the opportunity to talk about heartfulness, which is a type of meditation. And research has demonstrated numerous benefits of meditation practice. Brings your blood pressure down, brings your heart rate down, reduces your stress level. It can help people who have diabetes. I've known people that really start doing meditation and their sugar levels come down. It doesn't get rid of their diabetes. It helps them manage it better. And if you haven't done meditation, there's a YouTube. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But if you just go on YouTube and Google or put in the search bar meditation or Google meditation, you'll come up with probably 100 different things to try. And in particular, I like YouTube because you can find short ones. They're like 10, 12 minutes. And you can figure out in 10 or 12 minutes whether you're going to like it or not. And they're free. And Headspace is the one I was thinking of. Headspace is really cute. It's really funny. This I believe he's Australian, has this wonderful voice, this fabulous accent, just very calming and soothing. And you can sign up for 30 days for 10 minutes a day meditation for free. And then, of course, they want you to buy it. And I mean, there's no obligation. But be willing to attempt things like that and try things like that. The better you feel about yourself, the more likely you are going to want to connect with someone else. These are some books that if you like to read, I highly recommend. They are, I believe, in all the libraries. They're older books, but they have such great information that I would highly recommend getting it and looking through them. Ask yourself, what will you do to strengthen a sense of belonging?
Thank you, Dr. Sharon, for this very thought-provoking and helpful information. I took a lot of notes, so I have some little buzzwords. I took some buzzwords so that I can, follow up with things. Setting boundaries was a big one that I needed to work on. So now, Dr. Sharon's going to answer some questions. Ryan Bankert, my colleague, will begin with queries. Do we have any queries in the chat?
There are currently no queries at the chat, but I'd like to start off with one.
Okay.
Concerning the recovery process, finding a sense of belonging, would you recommend a a more stricter regime schedule into like keeping with going to sleep on the right times and eating your meals, and or would you more prefer a flexible kind of lifestyle?
I think you need to find something that works for you and not do too much at once. So, for example, if you're like me and end up staying up too late too many nights, that might be the first thing that you're going to say, okay, 4 nights this week, I'm just going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. That's just the way it's going to be. Because if you attempt to change your food, change drinking water, change going to bed, and finding a friend to walk with and do that all in 1 week, it's too much. It's overwhelming. Small measures of change are lasting. So if you make a decision that you want to improve one area of your life, do that first, then go to a second area and build on the success from the first one. Is that what you meant, Ryan? Did I answer your question?
You absolutely did. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, do we have any other questions at this time from anyone else in the audience or any of the fellow committee members who are also watching?
Or if anyone has any comments, I am open to comments as well. Maybe a personal experience.
Sharon, it's Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up about just another resource for people. When you talk about the ACE study, about the movie, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie of Paper Tigers, that it was a documentary done in, I think, a school in Washington State around students that had some difficulties. They were high school students. And they were having some difficulties. And so they watched them. They did the ACE studies and instituted some resilient things. Sharon, I don't know if you're familiar with that movie.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Tracy. Thanks for bringing that out. And there are some other wonderful stories. Stand and Deliver, I think, was one. It didn't go into as much of the relationship with trauma, but it really was about standing beside kids and showing them. There was, I'm trying to think of another one. After Paper Tigers, Tracy, it was a group of kids that were writing. They wrote a book. They were in Lancaster. They actually had some of the kids come and talk about their success. A school in California. I'm sorry, the name escapes me right now, but it really talks about resilient. We are really very resilient people. Kids are very resilient if they are given the right support, the right encouragement. They bounce back. We bounce back. One of the things that I would suggest is if you should on people, eliminate the word should. If people should on you, ask them to please stop shoulding on you. Shoulding is a very shaming word, and shame creates all kinds of internal issues. So that alone, I could do it, you could do it. Change the word should to could, and it will be really, really impactful. And Tracy, I think, is Paper Tigers being shown again?
That I'm not aware of, but I do know, I think you can get it on, like, what are all those other things? Not Amazon. There's all those other things with technology that you can find it on.
Okay.
All right. We have a question here. Talk about your tobacco classes or how to get therapy with Sharon, where and when, asking for my husband.
The tobacco cessation program at WellSpan is currently either by phone or on Zoom. And you can, I believe, sign up online I can give you my phone number, but there are 3 of us. There is one woman who speaks Spanish, and she does all her sessions in Spanish. And then there's a woman in York named Leah and I, and we do similar things. So the number at my work is 717-721-8790. And just ask the secretary to please schedule an appointment. All of the tobacco program is free. The sessions are usually with me, they're about 45 to maybe 55 minutes, depending on what we cover in the class.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we will bring an end to our question and answer session.
Okay. I just put the phone number in the chat for the tobacco cessation program if anybody is interested. And also, I just want to thank Dr. Sharon again. Lots of good information here. And thank you to our partners, WellSpan Health, WITF's Transforming Health, Capital Blue Cross, YMCA of York, and all of our libraries who participate as PA Forward Health Literacy Initiative. So stay tuned for next Thursday's program, You Belong Here and Now. This topic explores meditation and mindfulness. Dr. Jayaram Thimapuram, Dr. J, from WellSpan Health, calls it heartfulness. Additionally, Rachel Rosado, a certified massage therapist in holistic health, will talk about her work in helping people to de-stress and focus on the present.
You Belong With Us is an in-person event to be held on Thursday, September 2nd from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Dover Community Center. This self-care event will offer demonstrations on meditation, chair yoga, and Qigong, along with displays from partner organizations with the related information to improve your well-being. Reminder, please complete the reader survey to be entered for a chance to meet the author and receive an autographed copy of You Belong when Sebene Selassie visits our area on Monday, October 11th. The link to the reader survey is in the chat. Details will be forthcoming. Good night, everyone. Stay well and stay connected to your library.
Good night, all.